and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed, and those are the lights. We are in the Sock and Jesus book. Of course we are, because look at what's above me. So, last time we got hit with a banger of a wisdom bomb dropped on our asses. That is, in particular, there is perhaps, again, we won't know until we verify it for ourselves. According to Socrates, there is a purpose, an excellence, a goal for our entire race. So far, we've been talking about everybody's individual purpose, or the meaning of life for all people, or the true quest, the true hero's journey. What is the purpose that we are all here for? What is our highest goal and excellence? What's the meaning of life? And that is, well, ultimately, know thyself. Know the self. You, what are you? And that is as significant if you, you can see the significance of that if you have been developing understanding. Because if you don't do that, then why would you think the meaning of life is to know the self? Don't you already know the self? Doesn't everyone know their self? Not only that, aren't I a small bean? Aren't I a bad noodle? Aren't I inadequate or not good enough? I'm definitely not as good as Jesus or God. Now, of course, these are false beliefs that cause our problems internally, in our relationships, and played out within our species. The nature of human conflict is specifically caused by false beliefs about the self. Isn't that interesting? There is a single root cause to the conflict that we suffer and human problems themselves. Ain't that neat? It's just one. Simple. But again, the significance of that single cause, single understandable, verifiable cause, is only seen if you have been developing understanding. Otherwise, you will believe that the cause of human problems is something else. Not enough Christians, not enough MAGAs, something else. Okay, because these are all beliefs. And specifically, beliefs are the cause of our problems. Functioning at the level or making sense of the world through belief is why we have those problems. And in particular, the kind of belief we've just said that is the cause of our problems is a false belief about self. Now that flows, that has scope over other things. For example, false beliefs about justice we can see play out in our world to devastating effect. False beliefs about beauty play out in devastating ways in relationships. So, that is the scope from self to being to our physical world of becoming allows us to make sense of the particulars. In other words, Elon Musk. What? Elon Musk. In other words, if metaphysically the highest term is the one or the good self, and it's this that causes the realm of being, what we call the metaphysical realm or the realm of spirituality, or when you separate yourself from the body, you can experience that. Some people think of it as the enlightenment experience. Its aspects, justice, beauty, goodness. So we can say, we can add more to it. The root cause of human problems is a false belief and image of the self, which then relates to a false beliefs about reality, which include beauty, justice, goodness, excellence, what we should be doing with our life, and so on. So, the meaning of life, therefore, or our purpose or goal is to know the self, but you won't see the significance of that unless you move from belief into understanding. Why? Because as a soul, in the physical world of becoming, you have a belief that the soul is less, not good enough, And that plays out its implications in your life drama, your relationships drama, your inability to reach your goals with excellence, your tangents, your fantasies, and your dreams. In other words, mind is communicating to you in all of those ways messages about your false beliefs that are the cause of your problems, and gives you guidance or clues to move from belief to understanding. Now that's important. It's clues, because understanding is something, a skill you develop for yourself. And the training of that skill takes that skill or learning and nurtures it into your soul. In other words, it's not going to solve the problems for you, but it will give you what you need to develop that excellence of understanding yourself. And that's the meaning of life. That's what we're here for. And last time we went through 6 different arguments that show that, again, these are hypotheses. In other words, these are likely hypotheses that answer the question, what is the meaning of life? We've got 6 of them that show that there is a logical and a logical necessity, Apollo, rationality, rational necessity, and a beauty, Aphrodite, that follows from those 6 different arguments that lead us to the conclusion that it's likely that this is the meaning of life. To move from belief to understanding. But again, it's just a hypothesis, carry it with you, but the thing about this kind of hypothesis is you can confirm it. That's the movement from understanding to knowledge. Allowing you to know these things here, and then understanding can then be applied to knowledge to help you make the journey to the self. Giving us 3, 2, 1. Understanding, knowledge, and the recognition of self. Going from soul in the physical world through a learning process from belief into understanding. And one of the arguments we went through last time is that you can only go through a learning process here. One of the arguments as to why this learning is the meaning of life, we can only do it here. Another argument is our highest functioning here is understanding, because beliefs cause problems, understanding solves problems. It's just that simple. So understanding, confirming in knowledge, which is that separation of the soul from the physical world of becoming, allowing you to experience being, know yourself as divine, eternal. And understanding can be applied to that experience after you come back from it, to recognize that there must also be a cause. Just as there is a cause to our physical world and its principles, so too must there be a cause of being, allowing us to go to the self. Last time we also read that if we don't do it, we are going to be, and by the way, that purification of our false beliefs is pure justice. That's our highest functioning. That's the most just thing we can do. Reflect on ourselves in a certain way that allows us to uncover our false beliefs. That's the cause of our injustice towards ourselves and others, giving us the freedom to then move to understanding. But actually, you're doing understanding at the same time, because the process of reflecting on and discovering and removing your false beliefs is itself that same activity of the development of understanding. You have to understand your beliefs to remove them. So that's pure justness. And there are consequences to living a just life. You play out the implications of that justice in your current incarnation and in your next incarnations. Equally so, there's a consequence to not doing that and playing out the implications of your false beliefs as injustice, living an unjust life. In particular, what we read was there will be reincarnations into this dimension where you play out the tragic consequences and the suffering and the ignorance of living an unjust life while you're here. leading to the question, well, what happens if you want to stop reincarnating into a world of ignorance and suffering? Can you upgrade your reincarnations? In other words, is there a final goal? If the meaning of life is learning, and learning is also includes the practice of that learning, so you nurture it into your soul. So one of the other arguments that it's the meaning of life is that's the only thing you can take with you. Can't take your Bugattis or your Instagram followers with you, but you can take a learning of your soul and the nurturing in that soul, of that soul. So therefore, if that's the meaning of life, is there an end? Is there a complete removal of false beliefs about the self and a excellence or final development of that art of understanding? Or as Jesus put it in the text, what if you say no to reincarnation? I don't want to go into suffering and ignorance again. I've seen it. It's boring to me now. I say to it,
don't be disgusting.
Don't be disgusting. And
is this chat full of dumb cunts?
All of the chats on earth are full of dumb cunts. And we say about ourselves,
I'm too pure.
We're too pure and we don't want to go through it again. So, if the meaning of, again, a likely hypothesis that we can, and we've made this point many, many times, there are definitely more than 6 different logically necessary and beautifully whole arguments that show that the meaning of life is this learning and nurture of the soul in the activity called the dialectic. So there's the art we're here to master, the dialectic, which allows you to move from beliefs to understanding cognitively. And understanding opens you up to experience dimensions. So there's our epistemology, how we think, belief to understanding, and understanding unlocks ontology. So there's epistemology and ontology. Those are the 2 philosophical fancy words, and they're big words, and it kind of sucks that we have to use them because, you know, modern philosophers, materialist Aristotelian philosophers use those 2 words to debate people, which is bullshit, because debate is the opposite of the dialectic. While the dialectic allows learning and growth and solving problems, the opposite is debate. Debate is where people play out their false beliefs, their false image of knowing, their false image of what it means to be an excellent self, while they try and defend their bullshit false opinions that are wrong and defeat an opponent. So in other words, hurt someone. There is no winning against someone in the dialectic. There's no hurting people. It's only benefit. Both people win. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win. It's a win-win-win. So we are here to master the art of dialectic, which is something that we learn and we practice, so we nurture it into our soul. The dialectic allows us to move from beliefs, which are the reason we're here, to purify false beliefs, and to move into understanding. Understanding is what we take with us to reach being and to know the self. So we can say ultimately our highest excellence is the knowing and functioning, or knowing and showing the self, allowing us to therefore also escape the cycle of negative reincarnation. Or there is no actual Hades or hell, but you can live a hellish life. So the mythological representation of defeating the demons in hell or Hades that Hercules went through and other female heroes have gone through in Hellenic mythology is the slaying of not actual demons, they don't exist, but the beliefs. The false images and beliefs. So we've got lots of different ways of saying the same thing. The meaning of life is the learning and nurturing of the soul. Not really specific enough. So let's say this, through the art of the dialectic. So mastering the art of the dialectic. You put more words on it, which allows you to move from the cause of problems belief to what solves problems and reaches excellence understanding. So therefore, we could say it a different way, removing problems and reaching excellence, or purification and perfection is the meaning of life. All different ways of saying the same thing, different aspects of the same one. And this has the implication of escaping the cycle of reincarnation or negative reincarnation. So the meaning of life is to end your cycles of negative reincarnation, allowing you to reach the level of reality of self or know the self. So our purpose is to know the self. See, they're all different ways of saying the same thing. Isn't this fun? All of which are rational, all of which, when you say it, of course it is. It's like, it's so obvious and simple. That's Aphrodite, or the metaphysical principle of beauty and simplicity of things coming together into a whole, a knowable whole. That metaphysical principle that we look to and we use to come to conclusions and inspire us to read this awesome book is the principle that we personify as Aphrodite. The rationality of these arguments, that they're logically necessary, you can't take anything with you other than this, logically, necessarily, that's Apollo. It's the rational necessity and the simple, beautiful, inspiring beauty that we use together to reach the dialectic, the art we're here to master. So those are the Aphrodite, Apollo, and Hermes. The triad of anagogic or upward moving gods that represent the three upward moving principles that we can move upward to reach our goal. And our goal of knowing and showing the self. So not just knowing the self, but to get there, you have developed that learning and nurture in that skill and art of the dialectic, which is the use of understanding to help all living and non-living things. That's Zeus, that principle of that self-knowing and the mastery of the dialectic to benefit all things, which is an art, by the way, because art has to benefit. That principle is Zeus. So Hermes has the magic flying shoes. It's not real, it's to represent that dialectic, races you quickly to your goal of Zeus, representing the self. So those are the anagogic triad and Zeus at the top of the 12 Olympian gods that are just metaphorical representations of these 12 principles that we need to understand of reality. And by the way, if you don't have that mythological representation of these principles, Socrates calls you a barbarian. You're a barbarian. And of course, if you take them literally, then you are stuck at the level of belief. You don't know how to move to understanding, and you don't know how to develop. So, Aphrodite, it's beautiful and simple. Isn't it obvious and fun? Hooray! Don't we say,
Where's the joy? Where's the
Whimsy, where's the childlike wonder?
joy and whimsy and childlike wonder, dude? Like, ain't this fun? I think it's fun. I think it's the most fun. So we can see this principle of Aphrodite and Apollo play out because all of these arguments we've been making are obvious or beautiful and rational. In other words, you don't have to think very hard to realize that beliefs cause problems. Ever heard of sexist beliefs? Ever heard of racist beliefs? Ever heard of Abrahamic religious beliefs? Ever heard of crusades and genocides and religious holy wars? Obviously, necessarily, beliefs are the cause of problems. Because not only are they wrong and stupid, but you become identified with them. So that's the opposite of what we're here to do. We're here to know the self here, but what gets in the way of understanding and knowing and recognizing, 1, 2, 3, the self, is a false belief about yourself that you are willing to fucking kill and die for. And everyone in your family will chastise you and shoot you down and kick you out and maybe even kill you if you don't follow this idea of self in reality. I am a Christian, I am a Muslim, I am a Nazi, I am a MAGA. It's an identity. Doesn't change, you can't grow. If you change, then you'll get executed or chastised or threatened. So of course beliefs are fucking terrible, because that's how they function. Also, of course, understanding solves problems. How can you fix your engine if you don't understand an engine? How can you fix a sick puppy if you don't understand veterinary medicine? Obviously. So that's the obviousness and the rational necessity of all of these things we are coming to. And that's also the significance of understanding. You won't see it as obvious unless you've gone through the work of moving into understanding. And that process of moving into understanding requires you to be puzzled. You have to already have a kind of integrity and character that you're willing to give up your bullshit. I am so strong and smart and knowing. Every single politician that you've seen on TV spouting nonsense, every Alpha Bro podcast or right-wing grifter or Fox News presenter, all of these people, every evangelist and preacher you've ever seen in any religion, they are not able to learn, and they're the cause of suffering because they're not willing to give up their sense of being a knower. Look at how confident I am when I tell children they're going to hell if they don't give me their money or do what I tell them to do. You have to give up that false pretense of knowing to reach true knowledge. So it requires you to be puzzled. When you realize that you were wrong about yourself, the meaning of life, the nature of reality, the cause of problems, you feel numb and it puts your body into a state of shock. You have to be okay with these states of mind that are uncomfortable, that you've been taught is bad. Right? You are a good student if you have all the right answers. If you become president, even if you're an ignorant idiot, if you pretend you know everything. You can't create, you can't learn unless you're okay with being puzzled and then being numb, which is a kind of philosophical ignorance. You realize you don't know. Then you have to read, you have to have a nose in a text to follow the logos. So that's why we read Pierre Grimes and the Balboa translations of Plato, so we can read Socrates' words, because Socrates and Pierre are both masters of the logos. You need to be learning from a master mechanic if you're an apprentice mechanic. That's right opinions. And you put those conclusions together into insights when you arrange them into the dialectical structure, or you talk about them with your friends, or you make these diagrams putting the pieces together. And when you put the pieces together, you get a lovely insight and you feel joy in the body. Notice all of these cognitive stages are accompanied by feelings in the body, which is one of the arguments to show why, as you can only go through this learning process in a body, because there has to be these feeling states that you require a body to feel. It's another argument as to why the purpose for our existence in a body is to learn. Now, when you apply your insights into your experience, you're not gaining anything. You are removing the false pretense of knowing. You are purifying yourself from those images and beliefs you've been carrying that's been causing your problems. So you don't even have to remember anything, because it's letting go, putting you in an open state to continue to go through this process over and over again. Continue to follow the logos, or ultimately live the logos. Live this intelligible, beautiful, providential guidance that's being sent from mind to you at all times, should you learn to listen. So simple, isn't it? Learn the logos, follow the logos, which gives you a mastery of the dialectic, how to think, how to talk, how to communicate, the opposite of dialectic, which causes problems and hurts people, which allows you to solve problems caused by beliefs, by purifying beliefs because you're understanding them, allowing you development of understanding. Therefore, to move from belief to understanding is the meaning of life. That's a learning and nurturing, allowing you to ultimately know the self. Now, that makes sense. Worth saying again. Worth nurturing it into our soul by this reflection. Plus, I mean, what a cool thing to say. Right? Instead of turning on Fox News or even turning on those American comedy things, which can be fun because they're funny, and hearing over and over again, Trump is bad. There is fascism. Religion is causing more problems. Guns cause more problems. And people's identification with their clan, whether it be I'm a gun nut, I'm a MAGA, I'm a Christian, is causing problems and suffering. Yeah, we get it every single time on the news. What we don't get ever is any solutions. So instead of repeating that, why not repeat the good stuff, the actual stuff, and what allows us to solve problems? That's why I'm doing this podcast and why I am on Twitch. And because it benefits everyone, it's universal, it's true for not only human beings, but all intelligent beings. That's why I have all of the followers. Ever wondered why I'm the most popular streamer on Twitch with all of, it says one current viewer? Because it's for everyone. Everyone is a soul going through this process. And it's not an opinion. So I have all of the followers and the viewers because you don't have to be an opinion. No one is excluded. You don't have to believe anything. You don't have to be a certain sex. You don't have to be a certain color. You don't have to have certain kinds of religious parents. You don't have to wear a color hat. You don't have to listen to someone with a big funny hat or the right kind of funny hat, the Pope hat or the Imam hat or whatever the hat, that the crown that makes you. You don't have to believe. You don't have to be anything. It's literally for anyone who has language and the ability to reflect on themselves. Logos and Usia. So, if that removal of individual beliefs and the development of understanding, which opens you up into higher cognitive functions and dimensions, like knowledge and the self, or being and the one, allowing you to escape reincarnation, is our individual purpose or meaning of life, through the dialectic, of course. It's how you make that. I'll call it art because it benefits in this way. If this is through the art of the dialectic to move from beliefs to understanding or purification and perfection to function cognitively and experience the higher dimensions, including being or knowledge and self, allowing you to therefore escape the cycle of reincarnation, which is only there to show you the implications of not fucking doing this and how terrible it is, so you can wake up to the game. Hey. So if that's the purpose of life, wow, all the welcome, good to see you, Sus. All of the really cute emojis, hooray. Sus says,
do a poggers
today.
And I find that very entertaining.
And R.M. Brown finds that very entertaining. So what we're just coming to a conclusion that beautifully we can come to these beautiful conclusions. That's the principle of Aphrodite, a beautiful wholeness that's inspiring and affects us. And it's logically necessary That's the principle of harmony or reason. It's necessary that these things are true. Those two together, Aphrodite and Apollo, allows us to come to conclusions, which is the movement upwards towards the mastery of the dialectic. That's Hermes. These three principles we use to move upwards or to reach the purpose of life, which is to know the self and function through the self. That knowing and showing or functioning we represent as Zeus. So those are our four key metaphysical terms. I'm good. I'm giving you a review of what we've been saying. So these beautiful arguments, Aphrodite, that are logically necessary. They make sense. That's harmony or Apollo. Allowing us to come to conclusions, that's the dialectic or Hermes. And that is what takes us to our goal, to know the self and to function through that self in a way, in an artful way that benefits all living and non-living beings. That's the knowing and showing of self. That's the excellence of self. That's Zeus, using the art of Hermes. That's the meaning of life, represented through metaphysical principles and theology, which is just the personification of those principles into characters. If you don't have that, apparently you're a barbarian. So that's what we're using to come to these conclusions. Beautiful, necessary conclusions. Aphrodite, Apollo, and Hermes. And that conclusion is specifically that we are here to master that art of dialectic, to solve problems, which is caused by belief, to develop that excellence of understanding. Therefore, the purpose is to move from belief into understanding. Understanding can solve beliefs. Understanding opens you to knowledge and to knowing the self, which is higher levels of reality and higher cognitive functions. The fancy word for levels of reality is ontology. You impress your friends. Ontos means being, so ology means study. The study of being opens you to levels of being, but also understanding, knowledge, and recognizing the self are cognitive functions, ways of making sense of the world, different from beliefs and images. That's epistemology. Epistos means knowing. So those are the two versions of philosophy that you hear about, and they're fancy words that you can use to impress your friends. So to move from belief to understanding through the dialectic, which means you can escape the cycle of reincarnation, because your physical reincarnations just play out the ignorance and suffering that follows belief. And follows choosing to not do this in your life. Choosing to not do this in your life is unjust. Real justice, pure justice we got from the book. Pure justice is this: purifying your false beliefs in the development of understanding. That's our pure justice. If you don't do it, you will play out that injustice or those false beliefs, the implications of those false beliefs towards yourself, your loved ones, and anyone else in the world, causing you to live an unjust life, and you will suffer the consequences of that way of living, that way of learning and nurturing and functioning in your subsequent reincarnations. And it also means when you die, you won't be able to dwell in and sustain the brilliant light of being experience. And the greater you can sustain that experience when you die, the greater your own state of being will become. So if you play out an injustice, or you have a belief that you're not good enough, you're not beautiful enough, you're not just, then you're not going to be able to handle pure beauty, goodness, and justice. So the meaning of life is the art of the dialectic to move from belief to understanding, which allows you to escape the cycles of reincarnation. So these are all different ways of saying the same thing. Know the self, escape reincarnation, belief to understanding, perfection, purification, art of dialectic. all of those are answers to the same question, the meaning of life. But last time, we got thrown another wisdom bomb on our asses. Well, what about if this is the truth for individuals? Again, understand it yourself and verify it yourself. Then what about our whole race? Is there a similar version of this for not individuals, but our species as a whole? Is there a destiny, a highest excellence, a purpose for our race? Is it worth addressing beliefs and learning how to understand as a culture? Is it worth putting an end to inequality, suffering, slavery, injustice, genocide, and the destruction of our planet for the sadistic pleasure of those in charge or the wealthy? Is it worth saying, maybe billionaires shouldn't be playing out the implications of their own injustice and false beliefs on others to cause suffering? Maybe we should stop that horse shit and just help everyone and live in a wonderful world? Because the implications of playing out beliefs we can see as going to lead very, very, very soon to the end of all life on our planet. So what? Is it worth not doing that? Is it worth saving life on our planet? In other words, is there a purpose for humanity itself worth protecting? That's where we were last time. So let's jump into the review. By the way, all of this review and conclusions is just putting together into a whole everything from the book. There's nothing of my personal opinions in any of that or beliefs in that. It's just the book. We are learning how to read. Okay, so here we are. In our earthly existence is where we can learn the roots of our unsuspected false beliefs about ourselves and turn towards the quest for the actual wisdom of the self. There can only be one. So Jesus says that it is in man's earthly existence that we can gain these jewels. There can only be one answer, because the conditions necessary for learning are present when the soul is in the body. Therefore, having a body is a necessity for learning. Therefore, meaning of life. Only one answer: learning. And then the stages of having a puzzle, being perplexed, and we went through that already, going through it again and again. But also you have to purify the negative idea of teaching and learning we get from tyrants and sadists and believers, that you have to repent, believe that you are bad, accept punishment or sadistic violence as some sort of changing your nature or learning mechanism, which never actually changes anything, just causes more suffering. And they promise if you think that you are terrible, which is a lie, don't solve your problems, but just suffer punishment, then you'll be saved. So repentance, retribution, salvation has to go out the window. That's disgusting, cultish, barbaric abuse. Not because I think so, because it is by definition and how it functions. Okay, and if there is justice, there has to be reincarnation. Otherwise, what else can you use to make sense of the vast injustice we see everywhere? Everywhere. There necessarily has to be reincarnation. Necessarily, harmony. Apollo. So we're in a cycle of reincarnation because we're here to learn, and that learning is a putting an end to the cycle of clan beliefs themselves. So while we're here to put an end to our own false beliefs that we get from the family clan, we can say as a race, now we're just as in the symposium, we talk about seeing beauty in one body and then all bodies and then souls, but then recognizing that there is a beauty, that the kind of learning and development we do to perfect beautiful souls, if you're lucky enough to be in a relationship with a lady with a beautiful soul, you can share logos, because love and logos have to go together. That's the yoga of beauty, or the method of spiritual growth of beauty and love, as given to us in the symposium. Then after you go through that process of seeing beauty and developing the beauty and excellence of souls with your beloved, you can ask the question, does this apply to all people, or rather cities and states? The human race. So we can say for individuals and for our human race, our job is to find and surface all clan beliefs that we have been developing through our evolutionary process and solidifying through our hundreds of thousands or millions of years of evolution that are causing our problems. We are to put an end to that loyalty to sick, false beliefs and open ourselves to understanding, which is always universal, always beneficial, and our purpose. And then Jesus asked the question, well, okay, if we are reincarnated to address what's false and learn, what if we are sick of reincarnating? What if we want no more? I don't want to face a life where misery and suffering is my lot. Why don't we just pull back and say no? That's the question we're on. All right. So, what if we decide no more reincarnation? And Socrates says, as a race, we are a race here to fulfill a destiny. It's destiny. The end is everywhere present, so we can do it whenever we want to. We don't have to wait till the equinox or till the weekend. To come to know thyself is to realize the nature of reality is divine. Everything we're in is a reflection, is divinity. We are in the divine self. Our task is complicated because we seek other goals and have other loyalties. That's the problems. So along with our false belief comes a self-image that we identify with, and that plays out its implications in loyalty to other activities than this. So we're here to master our fate and fulfill our destiny, purification and perfection. And this is the only way that you can use that word, destiny. Any other way is garbage. Don't use it any other way, because destiny is very, very important and brilliant, and for all of us in the highest sense. No one gets to use that word other than this way. The kind of problems we return to again and again are loyalties to other than our sacred goal. The loyalty to other than that goal is the nature of our problems. That's the nature of problems. We have a root cause to problems. We have also, we can look at the conditions, both positive and negatives. Our soul must be seeking truth and self and knowledge for us to be willing to accept the imitations of it. So those are the positive conditions, but also there are the negative conditions in our childhood, in our origin scene, where we got passed on our false teaching. So we've got the cause, false belief, giving an image of the self that we identify with. Conditions, our soul seeks truth, but we also grow up in a box where people play king, priest, our parents. And those problems manifold, and a manifestation of those problems is our activities, which is an expression of a loyalty to any goal that is other than this sacred goal. The problems of the race of man experience. We talk about the kinds of problems the race of man experiences. So now we can ask the question, is that something specific to humans? Is our kind of evolutionary conditions unique? Or rather a heightened expression because of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, allowing us to evolve under certain strange conditions? In other words, do we get a heightened expression of what all species have to go through at a slower pace? Meaning we have the technology to destroy all life on our planet with our nukes without having sufficiently developed this kind of learning. Therefore, we can put an end to our race. So, on the edge of a sword, the double-edged sword of being a human. So the mysteries one of the mysteries is, why do we believe something about ourselves that is false? Like, why do we buy into the garbage if it's so dangerous? And that's because, well, there has to be something that makes the problems believable. And we talked about that as the conditions, the negative conditions, that the parental figure has to appear knowing and appear caring. So there's an appearance, there's a big fucking charade that's put on by the family, and anything different, and it's put on when you are free, when you are yourself, to shut you down, and that way of being and that activity becomes an object of scorn and mocked and vilified by the family. And you're a little kid, you don't know any better, your parents are everything, and all of the other children have fallen in line. But also, as a result, we also, if we do accept the belief, we get an identity and a way of being. And we can see this more obviously with religions and political movements. But you're doing it as well. It's not unique to MAGA or Christians. They get a way of being. I can walk around with sticking my nose up at everyone else and wagging my finger and being a Karen. You're going to hell because I don't like you. You're going to hell and I'm going to heaven and Jesus loves me. That's a way of being and an identity. I am a Christian. I am a Catholic. I am a Mormon. I am a Protestant. It's not a hypothesis that you have developed through your own reflection, reasoning, and need to test and experience. No learning. No fucking learning at all. So a way of being, an identity you get, and that plays a decisive role. That's what causes your life problems, but also that identity and way of being plays a decisive role in your reincarnation. So you don't just play out the suffering in this life, you get a whole bunch more in the next ones too. According to the book. Accept a way of being shapes his way of life, just as the soul accepts a life that accepts a life that marks his own new life. So we accept a way of being that shapes our life, just as a soul accepts a kind of incarnation that shapes their life too. As above, so below. So there's something similar in what we identify with and our loyalty to the new image and way of life. So we're looking for a similarity between our current problems and the problems that our soul faces in our reincarnations. And Socrates says, there is a mean between our twofold existence, as a soul and as a individual in this lifetime. And that bond that accounts for the full range of self-imposed masks that block the perception of self. So it sounds like he's saying all of the billions of people who have existed are playing out the entire full range of the kinds of self-imposed bullshit masks that cause our problems and block the true perception of self. So that means we wouldn't have to reincarnate if we were able to perceive the higher dimensions of self more accurately. Going back to the model from earlier in the book. If the metaphysical dimension or the divine dimension, eternal dimension, is the idea of self or the experiencing of self or knowing yourself, and the level above that is the one self, thyself, then if you were able to see self as self here, or know self and experience self as self here, and know the self here, then why would you go down a level? In other words, if these are all reflections, why would you look into a mirror? Or why would you identify with your mirror reflection of yourself and give up I guess that's Instagram, right? That's modern social media. People relate to a 2D image of themselves as more real than their actual selves. But that also means that as souls, we play out the implications or play out the full range of masks that are different from self as being and the one self. And it's different and a problem because it blocks. Problems blocks. Listening while looking for jobs. Oh, okay. So, blocks the perception of the self. What does? All of the masks people have. Why are you born? Why are you alive right now? To address that block. Address that mask that you don't even know you have, but you identify with. Why is it a problem? It blocks access to the high dimensions of reality. Says Socrates. Upon death, we all experience that light of being. So there we are here. You die, you go jump into this one. Wow.
Wow.
And to the degree that, one is able to endure that level of reality, that true perception of self, to that degree there is a corresponding profound depth or shallowness of one's way of being. In that encounter, they realized that what blocked them from a more profound experience was their own fear that they would be extinguished. So the thing that's stopping you from getting there is a fear that you will lose the self. How can I drop my image and mask and beliefs of self? Isn't that death? Isn't that the end of self? Self can't end, because self is the first cause. Everything is from self, within self, a reflection of self, to returning to self. But we don't learn that. We have to learn that. If we don't, we will fear the losing of self because we've mistaken our mask for self. It's a fear of the self being extinguished. That's root cause, is that false identification with the self. And if we drop that fear, drop that loyalty to those masks by development of understanding, belief to understanding, and using that understanding to find the origin of our beliefs, the original conditions and causes, and the principles that make it universal for everyone, we can be free of it. Dropping the cause of our fear, dropping the fear means we can participate in it. The greater that we can participate in it, the greater our own way of being. And we also talked about how that's also related to intelligence and empathy. Which is why, if you're looking for a broad, if you're looking for a beloved, if you're looking for a, thinking of a funny word, looking for a baby, looking for a, I can't think of any funny words. If you're looking for someone to spend time with, we talk about looking for someone with a good heart and good head. Because, well, that's a sign of the soul's ability to participate in intelligence itself. And providence itself, which is the functioning of the self through that. So, intelligent divine care. So the greater we can participate in intelligence, because directly proportion to the removal of our fear, which is directly proportional to the removal of our identification with images and masks, because you can't fear losing the self if you don't think that's the self, allows you to be open to and participate in intelligence itself, and it's by participating in intelligence itself you become intelligence. That's why intelligent people are the same. It's not like one intelligent person knows that 4 times 4 is 16. And the next intelligent person in the next class thinks 4 times 4 is 84. It never happens. It's always the same principles. Right? Same thing with care. This person cares for human life and animals, but not ducks. But they're racist? No, it never happens that way. Which alerts us to the fact that intelligence isn't particular. You can have intelligent people, but you've never seen intelligence itself. Therefore, intelligence can't be a physical thing that's particular to physical particulars. It's an adjective that has to have a existence that is a non-physical cause for it to be able to function as an adjective on physical things. And we go through that same reflection, dialectic. This is the dialectic, by the way. We're following argument step by step to a logical necessity, Apollo, and the beauty of seeing it all together, Aphrodite. That's the dialectic. Aphrodite and Apollo are used by the dialectic or Hermes. And also beauty. So that was Apollo, or using reason or intelligence, but you can also apply that dialectic to beauty, applied to Aphrodite. So we're using it and we're applying it to it. So look at the principles of beauty, and we will look at them beautifully. We will look at the principles of beauty through Hermes, the dialectic, in a beautiful way. We'll do it in a flashy way. I said flashy way. There we go. So, do you notice? And this is, by the way, we went through this earlier in the book with the symposium. Notice a beautiful body. It's easy. Any moron can do it. Even the most unintelligent people can see a hottie McToddy. Even the most belief-based ignorant people can see some beautiful streamer and go, whoa, they're hot. Look at how hot they are. But then look at 2. Notice 2 beautiful streamers out there on your screen. Or many, maybe 3. And then realize, hang on a second, from 1 to many to the all. The beauty that makes that person beautiful and that person beautiful and that person beautiful is the same thing. It's not in that person. It's not because, as, I don't know, kings and oligarchs say, we are better because we have it in our blood. We are born beautiful and smart and cool. So many animes is the villain realizing that true beauty does not come from your birth or racist shit. It comes from your character and development. That's why the main character has to go on a hero's journey of their own character arc, or leveling up on the hero's journey, or which is itself a mythological expression of this, the quest of man, the reason we're here. So, you realize that it's not beauty in a thing, it's the ability to participate in beauty itself. Equally so for intelligence. Both of which is in the metaphysical dimension, or the dimension of being. Therefore, helping us to understand what Socrates says, our ability to endure this pure intelligence, pure beauty, pure goodness, makes us as a being better. And we all experience the light of being when we die. Not only that, As a philosopher, you don't have to wait till you die. The goal is to separate the soul from the body to experience this often, giving us that wonderfully funny. The goal of a philosopher, of human beings, is to drop dead a bunch of times before you finally drop dead. Ha ha ha. That's funny for us as philosophers. But it's for everyone, because everyone experiences that. And this principle of intelligence being a participation in intelligence is for everyone. Likewise, the less you're able to do that, the more you are race, or the more you're a clan member. I'm a MAGA, I'm a right wing, I'm a Catholic, or I'm a Christian. That's why they are, objectively speaking, the least intelligent. That's why when you go to university, you don't learn religion, you learn understanding. You don't learn understanding. You learn how to do scientific understanding of physical things, but it's not about belief, ever. That would be crazy. You can't fix a computer by believing and praying. That's why thoughts and prayers is so disgusting when it's used as a surrogate for understanding problems. It also makes you a more caring being. So, good heart and good head. Find yourself a girl who can do both. Which is funny. Because that's normally an expression said, find yourself a girl who's, I don't know, polite on the streets, but wild in the sheets, or something like that. I can't remember where the original get yourself a girl who can do both comes from. But that's what we want. Participate in intelligence itself. Now that happens in our development, but that also happens at the end of our lives too. The question is, can you participate this in long enough to develop a state of being and carry along with you your questions, your ability you've nurtured into your soul, and ability to ask questions? Because when you're with that beautiful girl, you didn't say, this is ultimate. You asked questions. Why are you so beautiful? How did you get so beautiful? Okay. What's the thing? You have to ask the person, what is it? How did you get... How did you get all that junk inside your trunk? And then they say, I got it from my mama. No. Okay, I couldn't think of the pop reference, but all that junk inside your trunk. How'd you get oh god, all that ass inside them jeans? Right? You have to ask a question, like that song asks. How'd you get all that ass inside them jeans? In other words, even in the presence of beauty that looks real, looks the most real, and can even give you the most pleasure that you've so far experienced, still ask a question of causes. Where did it come from? Can you see more? Now, so this is the ability to ask questions and find answers. That's the dialectic. Questions and answers. That's it. Because to find answers, you have to follow a structure. You don't say, oh, it's because of, I got it from my mama. I got it from... No, that's not an answer. You have to follow the dialectical, the use of understanding to find causes and principles. So practice it with a beautiful girl. And a beautiful soul. And beautiful customs within a city and state, and beautiful knowledges. That's the 4 steps of having questions and seeking answers through love and the desire for beauty. That's the symposium. To the point where it culminates in the experience of pure beauty. That's here. The difference being in the symposium, it's so the Taoists, they think that's it. That's the highest experience. That's enlightenment. You're done. Get out of the ashram, go and meditate under a waterfall or something. But the difference is, in the symposium, Socrates says, that experience of beauty is the truth. It's the truth of reality, but it's from that you can go on to further develop true excellence. But if a beautiful person and a beautiful soul and beautiful knowledges can be so overwhelming that you can forget to ask questions and reflect through the dialectic. So there's our love and logos. But you've lived a life and you've developed a relationship where you've had these beautiful and even intense, blissful, pleasurable experiences with someone with a good heart and good soul, good mind. You've practiced questions and answers. You've practiced the dialectic. You've practiced using the logos. You've learnt and nurtured it to the point where if you experience pure beauty, you will still ask questions about it. You won't be overwhelmed by it. You won't mistake it for enlightenment like many people do. And you've got some understanding in your back pocket to frame how you reflect on those questions. Can you recognize aspects within that experience somehow? Can you order them? Is there a hierarchical ordering of those experiences? Hey, it's beauty, but it's also justly ordered. It's also goodness. It's also a kind of excellence. There's also an intelligible order allowing you to see that these aspects are there. Is that intelligibility higher? Are you looking for the logos? Because it's from that experience you have to develop, you have to put logos on it, love and logos, to develop true excellence, says Socrates in the symposium, and he learnt that from his from Diotima. So she was a master of the logos and dialectician who taught Socrates this. Isn't that neat? It's not a male-female thing. I mean, there are, in this reflection, there are male and female dynamics, but you either can be the dialectician or leading the conversation, leading the reflection. So that's the symposium. The greater you can, how often and the greater you can experience and go into this in depth and understand this experience is the extent to which you can develop true excellence of the self and ultimately become a immortal and a friend of the gods as any man can be. Also in the Phaedo, escaping the prison of suffering and ignorance, the chains of ignorance and suffering and the prison of reincarnation. But what Socrates is saying is the same thing, but all souls get to experience that on death, and the extent to which you can do that allows for a better incarnation. But of course, we don't want to keep coming back and having to relearn it all and suffer ignorance again and again. We want to go on to reach higher, more real, more true levels of reality and functioning of the self. Or as Socrates says in the Phaedo, even this realm of being, he says, okay, let's talk about it. Just as in the physical world, there are fish in the sea, and they think they think that the water is air. But then one fishy sticks his head above the water and sees a person and goes, "Oh my goodness, there was a whole different level of this planet Earth. I wasn't really breathing real air, it was water." So too, people who experience this realm of being There are people on the surface here. Socrates says, that's where I am. I'm on this journey. If you're a true philosopher, you'll do your work, have fun, do what you're here to do, so you can escape that prison of reincarnation and meet me here. Because I'm here with daemons and gods, and better men than you'll find on earth, who are going to be guides and fellow traveling companions. If you've got a brain in your head, you will race to meet me there as quick as you can. So that's the symposium. That's the Phaedo and the symposium. So, upon death, says Socrates, we all experience that light of being, and to the degree we're able to endure it, is to that very degree there is a corresponding depth or shallowness of that being. And we talked about fun, intimate experiences with your beloved that can be a practice for that enduring of beauty and a practice of the reflection upon it through the dialectic in the afterglow. Culminating in higher and higher experiences, of course, even that one. So that's fun. Should you be lucky enough to find yourself a girl into that? Because most people would rather be into the reason they're here. Fantasies. They're false images of beauty and what relationships are about, which is a loyalty to the family clan ideas of beauty and love. That's the cause of human problems. So, two options. But in that encounter, you realize that what was blocking you was just a fear. And that fear was unfounded, because it's a fear of losing the self, which is, I guess, would make sense, but rationally is impossible. You can't lose the self. What would be losing it? And if everything is in self, of self, and returning to self, from self, in self, and returning to self, then what would that mean? There can't be anything outside of self. Which is actually the opening line of the Gospel of John, before he descends into his problems. Nothing can come to be if not from self, or out of the self. There can't be anything out of the self. Which is why you can say it's infinite, but also limited. It's everything in all directions, but there can't be anything outside of it, so it's also limited. Which is that one way of making sense of that beauty experience using the logos. Whole of all parts, limit and unlimit, same and different, out of time and in time, etc. So what blocked us from participating in it is our fear that we would be extinguished, but that's not the self anyway, so don't worry about it, bro. Because
I'm cute, like it's cutie pie.
Because you're actually a cutie pie.
He better not.
You better. Okay, so, but where do we get that false belief that causes our fear, that blocks us from our participation in luminosity and intelligence and developing a greater way of being? Don't you want happiness and bliss and way of being that's awesome? And intelligence? Then why the fuck are we afraid of losing the false idea? Where do we get it from? We need to see that, because that's part of understanding. Finding that's those two parts, right? You have a question. Why can't I be intelligent as my favorite streamer? Or as beautiful as my favorite streamer? Or as kind-hearted and brave? It's a question. The answer is the dialectic, or the way in which you find the answer is the dialectic. So you need the question, but then you need the skill in how to answer. Which is why it's love and logos. Love generates the question. You want beauty. There's your question. How do I have my beloved? How do I participate in it, in beauty most fully? Love and logos. Philo, dianoia. love of understanding. So how do we answer it? Well, causes, conditions, preconditions. And this is what we're talking about here, the conditions and causes for us accepting that false belief. There's a time when you were a wee baby, just wee baby like this. You were a little chicken. See, that's you. And you stepped out of the family's generally accepted state of mind. And that state of mind marked that family's psyche. You ever been walking through Walmart and you see a family and they're all fat? Or a family and they're all grumpy? Or a family and they're all racists? Or a family and they're all wearing MAGA hats? Same thing, isn't it? A family and they're all devoted Christians? A family and they're all devoted Muslims? You never seem to get a mix. You don't seem to get one devoted Muslim in a family and then the younger brother is a devoted Catholic. No, you don't get that. It doesn't work that way. Because we have the imposition of the family psyche. But our soul chooses it as well, which is a puzzle. There must be a reflection of a problem your soul has that would make your soul identify with that, choosing that way of life. So, you're a little chicken, you step out of that family psyche, the kind of state of mind that marks that general family psyche, and what you are being is natural and beautiful and free. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
But the parental figure has to end that freedom. Why? Because that would mean if he don't, then the clan would have to deal with that freedom of expression in another way. A good way. They don't want to do that because they're addicted to their ignorance. And they have a fear of losing their self and way of being. That's a false one. That's unsettling to learn something new. Have you ever seen a family that changes? Fucked if I have. I've been learning this my whole life. Do you think my parents or anyone in my family gives two shits about any of it? Only in one sense, in that they are looking for opportunities to crush it and belittle me for stepping outside of the family way of being. Extended family included. Yeah. It's the way it is for humans currently until we learn this. Right? The opposite to Fast and Furious, where Vin Diesel says, "The most important thing is family. Family, family, family. I race cars and I shoot the bad guys because family. Let's have a beer, a Corona, and do family." Right? Why does he have such an appeal? Not because he's good, but because it reflects the problems that humans have. Appealing. Right, market appeal. Okay, they'd have to end that natural, beautiful, free state of being that you're in as a little chicken. That's you. Yep. So these are the parents, this is the parents, and this is you as a happy chicken. And they go, "Rawr," and they, "No, not in this family," like that. See? Whatever the incident is, it becomes an object of scorn. Don't you dare do that again. They might even bring it up to mock you. And they might find a sense of clan loyalty by mocking you. Just as MAGA finds a clan loyalty by, abducting and torturing brown people, but now it's everyone. Because I saw today that these tow-headed racist thugs are abducting off the street in masks, cowards, just people who are protesting anything. So, the implications of not doing this, we are seeing playing out on live streams in America at the moment. So, why? That's different from my way of being. They're brown, they're thinking for themselves, they're challenging authority. I am a good towhead, and I learned not to question authority. So it becomes a scorn, and that way of being becomes taboo. Thou shalt not do that again. The state of mind that accompanies that way of being is also forbidden. It's not only the way of being and the activity, but the state of mind. So shoot you down. And that's what we learn. So the voice that repeats in our head that keeps us negative about ourselves or afraid or shooting ourselves down, that's nothing other than the echo of this. To take you out of your natural free open state of mind. You are self-policing. Okay? It's all false. To make the false appear true, the parental figure has to appear noble, most noble, and knowing about the truth of life. Right? Scammers, con artists, grifters. I know about everything, says these right-wing podcast bros. Says the fascists, says the politicians. I know everything. Well, fuck you do. You are copying your parents. So, they have to appear knowing and having the utmost sincerity and caring. So, there's our imitation of what we seek. So one of the, while these are the causes of us accepting a false belief, the conditions is what we were talking about earlier. Our soul seeks to know being, seeks intelligence and care, good head and heart. That is really achieved by the extent to which you can participate in this, which is the extent to which you are letting go of any self-image and therefore any fear of losing the self in that experience. So the fact that we are seeking truth, intelligence, and care means that we have the conditions within our soul for accepting the false appearance or imitation of knowing, intelligence, truth, and care. So those are the preconditions for the causes. And you've got to see both if you want to free yourself. Man, job hunts are brutal. Tell me about it. Late stage capitalism is a hellscape. So what we would have to do is recognize that all of the wealth is moving into the hands of a few oligarchs, and they make interest on that. Where does that interest come from? Not out of nowhere. For billionaires to get richer, it has to come from everyone. So no one has the money to start businesses or employ people, meaning, and by the way, what do the billionaires have to do? They can't just sit on their wealth. They have to invest it into property, which is like their little piggy banks. So not only do these people not have any jobs or any money, they can't afford rent. That's why Trump is sending armed troops to American cities. Because he's grifting, he's stealing all the money. And eventually people have to do one of two things, fight back or starve. That's capitalism. Capitalism is fucking disgusting fascist garbage. It's absurd that we've allowed capitalism, which is, hey, hurt as many people as you can so you can extract profit into the hands of a very, 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 very small few. These people can be fascists, they're not even doing anything good. The worst people can do the worst things while everyone else suffers. That's capitalism, by definition. Instead, we have to recognize that money is needed to live, just like water. So money is like a flowing of water that we all need to drink from. And anyone who's building up dams to siphon out the water for their own special pool is acting against the public interest. And this dam has to be broken down. Just that simple. And as almost all jobs can now be automated in a renewable, efficient, sustainable way in harmony with all life, non-living and living, then we can even put an end to slavery, or jobs, or sacrificing your life for survival, which only existed in the first place to make profit, or to extract wealth, which is, again, a dam. In other words, the next step was us realizing that the rational approach is a universal basic income, removal of any wealth inequality, existence of billionaires, and which is a hoarding of wealth, but also a hoarding of resources. No one gets to say, I own everything, you have to pay me for a house. That's fucked. And also technology. You can't hoard technology. Why? Because we have the technology to put an end to pollution or put an end to slavery. But then a billionaire can buy it because they want to see the world burn or because they want slaves. So human beings hoarding what belongs to everyone is the sickness. And of course, one step behind that is you have to realize what made them believe in something antithetical to understanding or intelligence and care. In other words, what's their false image of knowingness and caring that wants them to act in such an irrational and harmful way. And also, as we introduce the logos or true intelligence and care, those people will surface themselves and saying, I don't think we should tax billionaires. I don't think that people should get to live. Only billionaires should have free money. Because that ignorance has to be surfaced, because that's literally what we're here for. Pure justice isn't just establishing a harmonious world, it's addressing the causes of injustice. That was in the book. Pure justice. So we need to surface those who speak out against universal basic income and removal of hoarding of wealth, sharing of wealth and resources to meet all needs properly. We have to have them surfaced. The fascists are showing themselves currently. So that's the possible justice behind the injustice in America. It's surfacing the problems we are here to address. Pure justice shows itself when the soul reverts upon itself to surface and eliminate those blocks to the soul's excellence. The soul survives death and is reincarnated, carrying along with it whatever it has learned and nurtured from the past. Justice plays out its hand, assuring each soul receives its most proper due. Look at the extreme suffering we were just talking about. Many souls experience in each of the days on earth, and you'll see justice playing out on earth. We are seeing the tragic suffering and implications of injustice, of ignorance souls have learnt in this life and previous lifetimes. But that also gives us what we need to learn pure justice, which is addressing the cause. Why is, like, a fucking 4-year-old can tell you that capitalism is terrible, can't work. Let's all live so billionaires become richer and everything else dies. That's a terrible way of being. Hey, shut up. 4-year-old will tell you that. So it's not just harmonizing, it's turning about upon ourselves to surface and eliminate those blocks to soul's excellence. Another way of saying that is, hey, didn't we fight the Nazis and win? Why we still have Nazis? Why are the Nazis taking over again? Because we didn't surface and eliminate the blocks to soul's excellence. We didn't address the causes. Trump's the worst, he's a hoarder. Greed causes starvation in poor and rich because nothing can satisfy that appetite, so we all suffer. Exactly. Whoever invented money, time travel to punch them. Right. But there are better ways that we can use money until we transcend that. That's what we're talking about today. Where are we headed as a species? If we do this work, what's the positive in store for us? We are definitely living out the implications of the negative. But if we were to do pure justice, what fun can we have? Looking for waitress jobs. Oh, good luck. So, that was just a expression of what we're learning that we can use to understand current everyday problems, because it's always the same game. Developing questions, addressing the causes of the problems, and harmonizing ourselves with the intelligible principles of reality. The more that you can experience reality, the more that you can be aware of those intelligible principles that we can harmonize our souls to and our societies to. That's learning. More intelligence, more care. The more you have a false self-image and belief about reality, the more you fear losing those things that you're addicted to, and therefore the less you can participate in the truth of self and a reality, the dumber and crueler you are. So, dumbness and cruelness is directly proportional to your self-image and your beliefs about reality and clan identity, and how intelligent and kind and you are, or beneficial, caring, and kind you are, is also directly proportional to the truth of the self and the truth of reality and your ability to participate in both. So, intelligence, care, self, and reality. The opposite, dumbness, ignorance, and cruelty. The imitation and image of those things from your dumbass parents when they were playing this shit on you when you were free and able to and open to those experiences. They shut that down because they have their problem. Why? If you didn't have a problem, you wouldn't be reincarnated here to begin with. It's not a blame game. Yes, it's the cause of ignorance, dumbness, and cruelty. Yes, the fascists and the MAGAs and the capitalists are the ones most stupid. They're not geniuses playing 5D chess. They are morons, and they're cruel. That's why, if you've ever seen a right-winger on TV or on the news or whatever, or in real life, they're always looking to find someone who's vulnerable to kick. Look at Mumdani saying trans people should get healthcare. Fuck that guy, right? Because they don't have actual care and intelligence. All they can do is be cruel. That's sadism. The reason why cruelty is the point for right-wingers is because they can't do anything good, and they have to substitute dumbness and cruelty for knowledge. Otherwise, they'd have to step out of their family clan, their self-identity, and their beliefs about reality from their family clan, and that would make them uncomfortable, and they are cowards. Well, it's just that simple. Goodness, intelligence, and care comes from our ability to participate in that, or virtue, and vice is simply the imitation of those things. Vice is just the imitation of virtue. Just that simple. Tell your friends. So, and then there's the puzzle about, well, what does Hades represent? If there's no actual hell, where we carry the burdens of our mask in Hades, in the story of Hercules and things, and receive punishment for the reward we committed, but also gain rewards from whatever good we've achieved, until the power of our actions are dissipated. It sounds like what the description of Hades is exactly what we've described playing out on planet Earth. In other words, heaven and hell are possible states of being on Earth. Yep. I mean, there's another way of saying heaven is, could be used to mythologically represent this ideal as well. But again, your ability of your soul to participate in truth, intelligence, and care would be the implications of you living a just life. That's what we want as a philosopher. As philosophers, true humans, or humans doing our human activity, we seek this. That's bliss. That's beauty. Live a just life, do this activity, and you'll get there. Have that as the love and logos relationship, and you can reach it. So that would be a reward for your justice. Just as being stuck in your problems is not doing this. Your problems are caused by your loyalty to false beliefs and images of the self from your clan and your earliest teacher, and not learning understanding. So if you don't learn understanding, you're being unjust. If you're being unjust and not learning understanding, you're going to have your problems. You're going to stay in it forever. So there's your Hades, or the negative consequences of injustice. Therefore, as we read, pure justice is this: developing understanding to remove your false beliefs by addressing their causes. If you do it, you can reach being, because you got no fear of losing the self weighing you back, pulling you back. So there's your heaven on earth. And if you don't, you're stuck in your problems in the physical world. There's your hell on earth. Therefore, the mythology of Hercules and others trying to solve problems in Hades to escape hell is a mythological representation of what we are doing here. Again, theology is a metaphoric personification of metaphysical principles that we are here to understand and master for our soul to develop, to reach being and know the self. If you take it literally, think there is a heaven and hell in the sky or a devil, then you are a barbarian, according to the Hellenics. That's what it means to be a barbarian. So, for justice to reign, there must be rewards for honoring and knowing the self. Man needs to see and understand that through learning, every sin loses its sustaining power over man. Man must learn why ignorance has the power it has. So you have to find out why we're so addicted to our problems. Okay, we're here to learn also because we have these feeling states. You have to have these feeling states to recognize the stages of cognitive development through the learning process. Therefore, as you realize this is the meaning of life, just one thing: master the dialectic, or belief to understanding, or pure justice, or excellence, or purifying your false beliefs and using that freedom to develop understanding to reach truth, or participating in being and self. All different ways of saying the one meaning of life. Pick your favorite. But then you have to go through those stages of learning that we've been talking about. Having a question, realizing you're wrong, following the lead of the dialectic, coming to a conclusion requires the dialectic. That's Hermes. Dropping away your pretense of knowing, going over it again and again, and the corresponding feeling states that you need a body for. Therefore, another reason why we are suited for learning here, which would tell us that our purpose is to learn. Isn't this book awesome? Sorry if I'm going through it in a dry way, but it's so good. Okay, and therefore we have to sing goodbye to any sort of idea of punishment, retribution, or saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Which is also another way of saying it is put an end to cycle of clan beliefs. Okay, now the question: what are we here to do as a race itself? Our human task as a species, okay, it happens when, here we are. Oh no, wait, we're not there yet. So why was it believable? Why was the false belief believable? Appeared noble, appeared knowing, appeared caring, and that becomes the cruelty you imitate. That's a new way of being. You accept the clan belief because it gives a appearance of excellence. That's pseudo-excellence. You want to know why all these dictators and tyrants at every level of humanity are so terrible and so feel so justified in their obvious terrible action? Pseudo-excellence, the appearance of excellence, and they've never fucking once reflected on the cause of that pseudo-excellence, the image they're imitating. They've never reflected on their original teachers. They've never understood the conditions and causes for their ignorance. And they've never developed the courage to let that go and develop true understanding. That's why we're in the situation we're in. That's why this book and this learning is absolutely fucking necessary for our species. Thankfully, there is a historical pattern that the way of being of the current age is based on the teachings of those from the former age. We had Pierre Grimes. He nailed it down for us. He was able to write this book. We were able to rediscover what we lost with Socrates when we killed him, and Diotima, and Parmenides, the greatest book never read. In other words, we can do it. And it's the time to do it. Why do tyrants do tyrannical things? Oh, they're just imitating what they think is excellence. It's pseudo-excellence. Why? Oh, because they haven't done this midwifery and dream analysis. Why don't we have anyone fighting back against the tyrants? Oh, because they're not doing philosophy. It's that simple. What are the four aspects of the dialectic and this study that we are here to do now? That should be the study in every school for always. Four aspects. Just that simple. Looking for it on the board. Having some coffee while I do. Listening to some sound drops.
Well, you're doing your best. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Don't be disgusting.
Entertaining for me, at least.
The more holes, the better.
Oh, Emma, you always say that. Here is it. Eh? I must have written. Here we go. So, to move from belief to understanding, which is the gift from Prometheus to save mankind, which is the dialectic. How do we use the dialectic? We apply, hey, have a question and use the dialectic structure to answer what's the truth about self-reality, the meaning of life. That's philosophy. Why is there no one standing up to the fascists or Trump? Because we're not learning it. So how can we say, oh, Trump isn't following the paradigm or model of true justice, the logos? Because ain't no one learning that shit. So the Democrats or the left need to learn this philosophy, which is the dialectic to know the true paradigm of justice for everyone. Okay? Why are we addicted to why are the fascists so addicted to their ignorance and cruelty? Because they haven't applied the dialectic to remove what's false. That's midwifery. Dialectic to true, dialectic to false. What also needs to be done? Dream analysis. Why? Because you can't solve all your problems because you're in your problems. You don't know when you're missing the mark in philosophy because you're missing the mark and you've missed something. Your dreams is a way of learning the dialectic and learning mythology because it's messages about your problems and about your reading. So you got to have your nose in the text. You got to be trying to remove your problems. You got to be doing these two. Your dreams will help you in that activity, not giving you the answers, but giving you a puzzle to solve. That's mythology in a drama or movie. So not only are you learning about your problems and you're learning about your excellence, you're also learning about mythology because you have to unpack that mythology to get the messages. And what's the fourth thing? As you learn this, you have to have people to talk to. We need lots of people to learn this. This has to be our way of being for humanity. You need to share it. How do you share it? You tell stories about it. That's mythology. So dream analysis helps with all three other ones. So that's it. That's the dialectic, the four aspects. Why is no one standing up to Trump? Know that. Why do fascists stay addicted? Know that. Why ain't no one learning?
No one seems to be learning or growing or addressing actual problems.
Why is that happening? Because no dream analysis. And why don't we have anyone to talk to? The final step isn't being carried out. But fortunately, Pierre Grimes went through and rediscovered all this with his work with his friends and his various, including Alan Watts. You may know him from the internet. So, these are just the four expressions of the dialect. To go from belief to understanding, Just that simple. Tell your friends. So, pseudo-excellence is imitated by the cruel fascists and everyone who hasn't gone through this process at some level. Now, of course, there are levels. There are some people who are more intelligent and caring out there, of course. But similarly, it's not all doom and gloom, because there is true excellence. Whether we like it or not, souls are attracted to actual excellence. We flock to go see people's in excellence, artists, athletes, musicians, and we admire the excellence they see, and it inspires us to pick up the game ourselves. That's the way we turn it around. We ourselves seek excellence to create something beautiful and rational, Aphrodite and Apollo, so that others can be inspired to participate in themselves. And that's the stars in our world. Yes, we're suffering these problems, but there are some rare birds out there who are beautiful and rational, and they are lovely and exceptional, and they inspire us to achieve a similar excellence. So they are the good noodles. The drive for excellence is the fuel for our own inner life. It's about our own development. Everything else follows as a result of our own self-way of being. Remember, state of mind, way of being, and functioning. So the parents see the kid functioning in a certain way. They say, no, not that activity. That would require us to learn and think and then challenge our own clan beliefs and ignorance. That's too unfamiliar and scary. That way of being that allowed you to function is also taboo. And that state of mind behind that caused that way of being and then functioning is also forbidden. But we see people in excellence once we leave the house. And as a musician, this weekend, that's what I'll be thinking about doing. Can I allow myself to be my own self, natural, free, authentic, curious? What were the terms? Let's nail them down. Go back to where we left off as a kid. Natural, beautiful, and free. Can I be natural, beautiful, and free when I play music? Oh, same paragraph. And that kind of excellence, the natural, beautiful, free state of self, as I create something beautiful and harmonious. Aphrodite and Apollo, always looking for mythology. Can I inspire others to in that excellence? And actually, it's good. It's so important to recognize this, because it's the voices that reflect the fake excellence. It's the haters that give us negative experiences that stick with us so often. That's why it's so important to put words on the actual excellence, because objectively speaking, even though it doesn't feel that way, there are way more people who have given that kind of feedback and had that kind of reaction to my music. But every time I pick up my guitar, I have to deal with the bullshit pseudo-excellence, false imitation of truth and care from my family and extended family growing up. So difficult. It's funny because people say, oh, I'm so cool that you're playing music, you're doing what you love. And I'm like, I don't love it. It's fucking hard. I'm trying to get to a place where I love it. And there are times when I'm in that state. But again, that's why I have to be doing dream analysis and I have to be doing midwifery. And I'm trying my best with this stream to share it. That's mythology. Because it's difficult to do dream analysis and midwifery on your own. And philosophy ain't a solo quest.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure, says Gandalf. Yeah, so it's hard. Can be. Whenever I'm in this state of mind. Whereas when I am in a natural, beautiful, free state of being and the natural excellence follows, and I'm very, very lucky that there have been people who say that, oh, this has been really great, or this, you've made my night, or this is a core memory. That's a nice one. I get that. That's really lovely. Or when it's like the little animals or the birds. If there are animals or birds, they seem to love it too. Oh, there are some birds that sing and dance, and that's adorable. And there are little, when children love it, that's even cuter. Because you know that they're authentic. And they'll dance and sing, and sometimes they'll do what they're good at. They see the excellence of the music, and they want to share their excellence. So they'll show me their skateboard tricks, or they'll do a cartwheel or something, and they'll look over. Did you see? Did you see? Sometimes people want to sing their own songs. Like, I remember a few weeks ago, some people like, can you, there's a song, it's a cultural song, so you won't know it. I guess all we're asking for is you to give us your attention while we sing our song. I was like, maybe I can look it up and play the chords. And I actually looked it up and I played the chords, and it was really nice. But yeah, so those moments, and that's also why it's important, as Pierre would say, to put words on what you find beautiful. It gives that feedback, and it shows, it's difficult, it's taboo a lot of times. You type it in the chat and the mods will take it away if you say something nice or positive or flattering, especially if it's a metaphor. People might call you a simp, but it's important to put words on what you find beautiful, Aphrodite, and rational, Apollo. And that's excellence, and that inspires you. And also ourselves, that's mythology, right? Sharing it. It's a fuel, that drive for excellence that we can be inspired by others in doing is a fuel for our inner life. It shapes us and makes us become more real ourselves in ourselves. This brings us to the question of today's stream, man as a whole. When death arrives, it's coming. All who are capable of this kind of learning this is the learning we take with us. You're not going to take your stock exchange learning or your manipulating people learning or that bullshit. This kind of learning and what is what we take and what has been nurturing us. So those who are capable of this kind of learning take what has been learned and what has nurtured them into their next life. They take what has been learned and what has nurtured them into their next life. Whatever is yet to be learned and realized becomes what must be returned to in another life. So you don't want to go through it again. Do your best to do it now. Man as a whole, here is our question of the stream today. What's mankind's purpose? The race of man as a whole, what's its purpose? So just as everything we've been doing individually, defining our individual purpose, is there a similar analogical purpose for our race? Thumbs up. Is there?
I'm cute. Like cutie pie.
Is there a cutie pie version for humanity? Man as a whole is part of this struggle to know the self. It is a cosmic dance of meaning that ends when there is nothing left to learn. So we can go back to what we said earlier about the child accepts a way of being that masks and shapes his life, marks and shapes his life. So too every soul does. And Socrates says, hey, by the way, all human reincarnations is playing out all of those masks that we identify with. It becomes a way of being. So you got the mask or self-image we identify with that shapes our state of mind, way of being, and functioning or way of life. You can yourself have fun. Think about that. Write it down if you like. The hierarchical ordering of these aspects of a soul. Your image or mask, your self-identity, your state of mind, your way of being, your functioning, and the conclusion or your fate of that functioning. And you can break each down. You can find a hierarchical way of arranging it, make it make sense for you. That's the game. That's understanding. Hooray! So, as a race, we're here to put an end to cycle of all clan beliefs, says Jesus, but also earlier we saw we will continue to be reincarnated if we miss things. Okay, he says something about all possible images or masks. There's a finite number. I suppose there'd be an infinite amount of variations of expressions, but a finite number of kinds of pathologos. We're here to find the roots of our unexpected beliefs. You need a body. Stages of learning. Goodbye to repentance, retribution, and salvation. Justice is necessary to make sense of the injustice we see, also requiring reincarnation. The purpose of humankind is to put an end to the cycle of all clan beliefs so we can go on to know the self. That will also put an end to our reincarnations, if we want to. We can fulfill this destiny at any time. The only complication is the loyalty to other activities. That is because we accepted a core belief, because we took the image of care and intelligence and knowing. Core belief calls a way of being and an identity, plays out in our life and in our incarnation. So as this child accepts a way of being that plays out over and over in his life, so too the soul does. In reincarnation. Here we go. Our journey as human beings from heaven to earth, back and back and back and back and back, accounts for the full range of self-imposed masks that block the perception of self. So, put an end to all clan beliefs and put an end to or address the full range of self-imposed masks. That means, for a just society, when someone has a problem, you don't punish them or murder them or put them in prison or take away money through fines. We have an opportunity to reflect on the self-imposed masks that blocked their participation in self-excellence and the conditions and causes, preconditions and causes within society that allowed for that to happen and not be addressed along the way. Instead of blaming the fucking victims and playing out sadistic cruelty of retribution-based justice. That's the problem or ignorance with our society. But if we recognize, because we've read this banger of a book, that we're here to learn about these self-imposed masks, every single missing of the mark isn't a sin and an excuse for punishment, but an opportunity to reflect as a culture on those masks, which is literally our purpose. Because if we do that, we can see the full range of self-imposed masks that blocks the true perception of self and beauty and justice, and also put an end to all clan beliefs, which is at its root cause, all variations of clan beliefs and self-imposed masks, allowing all of us to experience true wisdom and the brilliant light of being in this life. And when we die, which is the best thing you can do for everyone, and understand the causes of what caused our problems, the origin scene of our pathologos, so that we can hold on to our excellence and we don't fall back into it again, and maybe even help other races or species or dimensional beings and make sure they don't fall into it, or help them out of their own problems or issues, perhaps, who knows. And this is the excellence that we are inspired to reach ultimately as a race. Our reincarnation as a human race is to address and understand the full range of self-imposed marks that prevent our perception of true being and self, and put an end to all clan beliefs that cause that. That's true excellence. And if we do that, we are fulfilling our role in a cosmic dance to know the self. And that when we can do that, when we fulfill that, those things we just said, the race of man can end in the state no longer of man, but that to which he has joined himself. So, just as an individual, we talked about addressing our individual. Let's use my pen. Talked about addressing our individual clan beliefs that cause our self-imposed masks, that blocks our participation in being, which allows us to be intelligent and caring. So too, as a human race, we are here to understand all possible clan beliefs, put an end to all possible clan beliefs, and address all possible self-imposed masks, so that our species itself can, as a whole, join with being, allowing us to become a more evolved species in intelligence and care or functioning, which is another way of saying what we just read. As the race of man ends in a state no longer of man, which had been characterized by the ignorance of clan beliefs and self-imposed masks that block us from true being and self, intelligence and care. If that's the definition of human beings, we are no longer of that, but now we are in a state of mind or a state of being that we have joined with. So just as individuals, we can join with true being, intelligence, beauty, care, justice, by ending our image and mask, end of clan beliefs, addressing our first teachers. But I love my mummy and daddy. Well, why? Because you are bullshitting yourself. That's not true care and love. If you love that, you are sick. You're going to have that problem in your life playing out. And that fear of losing that self-imposed mask prevents you from participating in being, prevents you from leveling up, becoming more intelligent and caring. And what Socrates is saying, that same excellence for the individual is also the excellence for mankind. We get to see all these people playing out all of these masks, which allows us to address the full range and scope of self-imposed masks, and put an end to all of the sick clan beliefs, be they fascist, sexist, racist, Nazi, religious, Abrahamic, Zoroastrian. There is an entire intelligible, limited order of all of the kinds of sick, disgusting, violent clan beliefs that cause, again, an entire limited range and understandable set of self-imposed masks that we can address as a species if we wake up and start, not spending our life energy kicking and killing people for the billionaires' sadistic nonsense, but realize that sadistic nonsense has a cause. If we wake up and start being intelligent and mature, we can ourselves do this as a collective, allowing our whole species to level up and join a more evolved, intelligent, caring, higher ontological dimension and of being, and higher epistemological way of thinking or cognitive functioning. That's the goal of mankind. As above, so below. As for us as souls, so too is there an excellence and purpose and destiny in the highest, truest, realist sense, dropping everything else for that word, a purpose, a goal, an excellence of our human race. something worth reaching and worth saving our race itself. It's worth waking up, being mature, putting aside our babyish loyalties to guns, to clan identities, to false beliefs, to religious beliefs, all of this horse shit nonsense that block us from true intelligence, being, and leveling up. That's our job. That's what we're here for individually. That's what the race of man itself is here for. That's our true excellence. As you do it as a soul, you can inspire that true excellence as an eternal development within yourself. And the more of us who play the game, the more likely our species as a whole can do it and fulfill the quest of mankind. What a banger of a book. And how fun it is to have that puzzle at the beginning of the stream, to realize we have no idea what the meaning of life for our species is, and even if mankind is worth saving, because how many nihilists and black pills and fascists out there and Abrahamic people who want to put an end to life because Jesus comes back, because no one loves me, because our society and our politicians and our clergy let us down? Yeah, they fucking did, because they're believers and not understanders. But if so many people are black-pilled or doomers or nihilists, why do we even want to save life? Well, that's what we've been doing today, realizing that there is a reason to save life, there is a meaning to life, there's a meaning to our whole species, we are worth saving. We have to realize we don't know, we have to realize we're puzzled, we have to follow the logos of the text, we had to put it all together as we did into a conclusion. And how joyous do you feel having gone through this process and realizing that there is this purpose to you as an individual and to humanity itself? There's a true excellence, purpose for all of us, a goal. And as we put it into effect, we end up in a letting go of our pretense of knowing, leaving us open, free, naturally beautiful, which allows us to have more fun repeating the process again and again and again. And hopefully that will inspire others. We'll all get on board and we'll get to experience in this lifetime what that would be like, individually and as a human race. Did I mention this book bangs? So, the book bangs so fucking much because it gave us what we needed to, not the answers, build our own definition of those cognitive stages of learning we went through, while itself giving us material to apply that to. It gave us a question. What's the meaning of mankind, the human species? Do you realize you don't know? Do you have to follow along with these things and piece the elements together in the text? Did you feel joy when you came together and realized that there is a purpose and destiny of mankind? Oh, did you feel joy? When you go out and do it today, every moment, because it's everywhere and always present, will you be letting go of tension and blocks and feel lighter? Will that make you more open and more willing to go through it again and again? Make it easier to go through it again and again? Were those the exact stages of cognitive development and feeling states within the body that you just defined to show that it's the meaning of life to go through that learning, because it can only happen here and it requires a body? Therefore, if you do learn this, do you not need a body anymore? Therefore, did we just confirm our conclusion? That if we're here to learn and there is an end to that learning, we would evolve as a race to join with a more intelligent, higher level of reality, not needing a body because the body is needed to learn this. Thus confirming through the logos in a providential, caring way, not giving us the answers, but because we went through it, pieced it together, applied, defined, we demonstrated what we defined, came to a conclusion, mind or the logos turns around, gives us a wink, gives us a smile and says, you did good. Yeah. by linking it back with a previous conclusion that we made. If we need a body to learn, and we've just described going through the process of learning as a species, culminating in the end that human beings can level up to a higher dimension, not needing a body anymore, does that fit? The end to learning is not needing a body. Fit with our previous conclusion, previous dialectic on why the meaning of life is to learn. Hooray. So, did we answer our question? Let's try it out and see where we go. Have fun, carry it with you today, wonder about it, talk about it, inspire others in that excellence of self. And let's see if we can turn this ship around and see what it would be like to live in that kind of a race. At least we can do it individually and with our friends. Speaking of doing it with friends and sharing it as part of that mastery of the art of the dialectic, feel free to share your ups and downs and your puzzles and your creations with us in the Discord. There's a link below. You can share your thoughts in real time in the stream, in Twitch or YouTube. You'll get a notification on Discord when we go live. And if you want to support the channel, you can donate. There's a link below, and that will be a great help as well. Thumbs up. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. See you in the next one. Bye.